Let me hit you with a tough truth. You can't polish profit out of bad operations. You can have the cleanest P&L layout, a nice office with branded mugs, a killer Instagram reel, but if the core operations of your construction business aren't making money, you're building a beautiful machine that runs straight into a wall. That's why you need to know your operating margin, because it tells you the truth about whether your business engine is firing or just revving with no traction. So what is the operating margin? It's calculated by taking your operating income and dividing it by revenue. So let me decode that. Operating income is what's left after covering your direct job costs, your overhead, your payroll, equipment, admin, your office rent, software, the stuff it takes to run the company day to day. But it does not include your interest, taxes, one-time surprises like selling a truck or winning a settlement. That's why it's called operating income, because it reflects how profitable your normal recurring work is. So if your revenue is $1 million and your operating income is $120,000, $120,000 divided by $1 million is 12% operating margin. That's your return on the actual engine, not the financial gymnastics. So why does it matter? Because operating margin is like a diagnostic tool. Is your day-to-day work actually producing profit, or is it just noise? Gross margin shows if the job makes money. Net margin shows what's left over after everything else. Operating margin shows where your company's core system works. If that number is weak, you don't need new jobs, you need a new operational strategy. So what is a good operating margin? Well, here's a rule of thumb for construction. If you're at 15% or more, that's pretty strong. Your business is lean and productive. Between 10 and 14%, solid, but check for creeping overhead. Between 6 and 9%, your margins are pretty thin. You're one mistake away from red ink. Below 6%, that spells trouble. You've either got a bloated operation or you're underpricing. So let me give you a real contractor example. Had a general contractor bringing in $2.5 million a year. Great team, full calendar, felt successful. But when we pulled his numbers, his gross margin was 35%, net profit 5%, operating margin 3.8%. He was making money on jobs, but losing it in the back office. The core business was barely profitable. We cleaned it up. We cut some unnecessary software subscriptions. We tightened up project management labor. We renegotiated vendor pricing. We also fired a low-margin client that was draining resources. 12 months later, operating margin 12.1%, net profit 8%, sanity restored. So how do you improve your operating margin? Well, number one, dial in your overhead. Rent, admin, payroll, software, insurance. If it doesn't produce revenue, it better support the people who do. Number two, watch unbilled labor and inefficiency. Time theft, overmanagement, and vague roles eat margin pretty fast. Number three, standardize your processes. Custom systems for every job means wasted time and bloated admin. Number four, track job profitability religiously. Good margins on jobs that fund poor margins in ops equals zero margin overall. And five, and finally, say no to low margin work. If the job doesn't support your true operating costs, it's not worth doing. So here's the final word. Operating margin is the proof of whether your construction business is working or just making noise. You can build houses, strip malls, tilt walls, custom decks, or steel warehouses. But if your operations don't turn revenue into real profit, you're just spinning tires in fancy trucks. So check the number, trim the fat, and remember, if the core ain't profitable, your office view don't matter.